Hey guys, welcome to Powerline. It's Kaiser here, and today I'm here with the Why You Should Play segment. But I feel like I need some help on this because I'm covering a clan that I'm not superbly well versed in. So I'd like to bring up my guest,
Hi,
who is a fan of dramatic entries.
I'm Sky Knight.
Yeah, so I think you guys know him. But we're here today to talk about Deep Police, and it's not a clan I'm superbly familiar with, but
I am.
he's a filthy Deep Police player that has been playing the clan since day one, pretty much.
Yes.
So let's get started. Just to remind you, the segment of this, we talk about general cards at first that just apply throughout the clan because there are just some cards in every clan that are stable. And then we go deck type by deck type through grade 3 type, the type of deck we classify it as, the strengths and weaknesses of the deck, key cards, and how it relates to the metagame. So with that being said, let's get started with general cards. Would you like to kick it off? Or?
It's on you. I'm just here to
Okay.
input.
So the three cards that we kind of, when we sat down and like sketched this out, that we agreed were just kind of universal throughout the clan. Laurel, one of the most debated cards probably in Cardfight Vanguard history in terms of stride generation, because that card's ridiculously powerful when you can potentially attack 2 times with your Vanguard and get 6 drive checks in a turn. And in combination with certain deck types, it's just very volatile. And then X-Tiger, which we kind of agreed, it's not played in every Deep Police deck, but the fact that it's generic enough to be played in every deck as an option warrants discussion. And then the newest card that we've kind of been toying with a bit, Wee King, the new grade 1 that came out that you Soul Blast 2, and when your opponent's unit attacks or is attacked, you can minus, what is it, 10,000?
Yep.
Yeah, it's 10,000. 10,000 power is very powerful and very generic and can be pretty much splashed in
All the decks.
pretty much all the decks, yeah.
There's no reason why you shouldn't play it.
Unless the deck,
Needs your soul,
yeah, I mean,
which
that's
Cosmic Heroes kind of does, but with the new support,
not really.
not really.
Yeah, so those are 3 cards that we kind of like to sit down and discuss this prior to like just spitballing this segment. So we feel like these 3 cards are cards that are generally considered
Universal. They're just all around generic support for the decks.
Yeah. So anyway, our first deck we want to talk about, we're gonna start from the bottom and work our way into
The good.
the good. So we'll start with the bottom, which for us, we kind of, when we were discussing it, is probably Enigmans. We both aren't super well versed on this archetype, but when I've discussed it with people, we kind of came up with this. So there are 2 different variants of it. It's the Chain Ride build or the Gigastorm variant,
Which recently just got released.
in the newest plan booster, right?
Yep.
What is it?
We are Trinity Dragon.
Trinity Dragon, yeah.
So, yeah, Gigastorm, much like Storm/Tornado, it's kind of... Gigastorm is primarily just after you have strided and you got 2 in the G zone and can just function by itself. That's pretty much what it is. It's not really a Heartbreak deck that what it should have been, but it's it's really pretty much just to be played for its name. So if we're really talking about which is a superior build between Gigastorm and Storm/Tornado, it would be Storm Tornado, because Storm Tornado offers you a re-ride
And early game.
and early game pressure because it's not bound by Generation Break.
Yeah. So then, this kind of brings us to our next point. We like to talk about just what deck type it falls into. And we kind of agree that all of Deep Police has tempo in it, but this particular deck is a little bit more aggressive, so we say...
We put it more in the aisle in the realm of aggro.
Yeah.
Just because, again, the deck is not...
It tries to hit hard, but getting into the strengths and weaknesses segment.
Yeah.
So the strength is that the early game's quite good. With
Yeah.
the weakness, I would argue that it has not very much of a late game. And when we've talked about it with some friends of ours, it's kind of like a worse Cosmic Heroes. And any time that a deck is like a worse anything, generally it kind of makes you question why you should be playing it. But there are some people that enjoy it, and like that's totally cool.
Like they got support, but pretty much the Enigma support was all burst, and burst is the key word for Gallop. So
Yeah, there's no point.
you could play it. No reason why you shouldn't. But the support that came from the set before Trinity Dragon, set 7, I believe, was just better for Dimension Please, or for Enigma, I should say, because it was fixing the train ride. They gave you Tornado, or they helped the Tornado out. Like, it was just better for them.
And it's funny, on the way to a Vanguard recently, a friend of mine, Johnny, we were talking about the deck, and he said something along the lines of, isn't support supposed to make the deck better and not worse? And he kind of felt like the support that was introduced in the new set didn't really benefit Enigmans a ton, which is very counterintuitive and very odd.
It really went straight to Gallop or even Metal Boards.
Yeah, so, but anyway, we're just kind of getting off there. A couple key cards, Sunset.
Enigma and Sunset, it's the critical trigger, where it's from In the Soul, you pull it out and you give your Vanguard plus 4K. It goes back into the deck, I believe. It's used primarily for Tornado to hit those numbers so you can combo out with Storm.
And then we have Night Sky, which is apparently the most potent card, which I'm not aware of.
Once per turn, counterblast 1, give one of your Enigma and Vanguards 4K.
It's not that good. And in terms of the meta, we kind of agree that it's a pretty strong no that this will not be very relevant.
You'll see it in my retro decks and retro fights, but that's about it. I don't.
Yeah, it's a deck you play if you want to have fun and like you're a loyalist to something, but it's not a deck you decide to play if you want to be relevant.
Right.
So we can agree on that. In terms of the next build we want to talk about, we mentioned Gallop, so we went over that.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. Gallop.
So Gallop, the main grade 3, the Gallop grade 3s.
Yep.
It's pretty
Great
self-explanatory.
Cosmic Hero, Grand Gallop, and then Bravest Rush, Grand Gallop.
Yeah, and one thing I'll give Bushiroad credit on is kind of the direction they're going with the G grade 3s, where they're giving another grade 3 with the same name, because some decks really struggle if they don't have the name of the unit on Vanguard. So,
but more importantly, it has a rearguard ability.
Yeah, and it has a rearguard ability, which I like. Same with Victor, but that's a totally different video. Which
next time I
very
will see.
Yeah, very big fan. Very big fan of that. We kind of agreed it was a tempo deck. Very deeply just falls on the tempo normally. Just the way it plays it, it slowly accrues advantage and wins the game that way, as opposed to like big pushes or stuff like that. It's very rare.
But one thing about Cosmic Heroes is it's more rearguard centric than Vanguard centric.
Yes, which is unique, but we'll talk about that. So strengths, you can hit numbers. That's pretty cool. Like,
yeah,
like he said, it's rearguard centric. So these numbers kind of interact with the rearguard effects and get certain things off, which is cool. Which can also be viewed as a weakness, by the way, because of the rearguard centric nature of the deck.
Sorry about that.
It can fall prey to control decks a lot more easily. And it can accrue hand a little bit because of some of the cards in the deck.
Yes, definitely Gallop is great. Great when accruing cards in hand, and the Bravest Rush, with this new ability, allows you to stride without using cards in your hand if you have a certain amount of cards left in your hand. So, really good card management, I would say, with Gallop.
And then, in terms of like the key cards, we said Grand Sub because that's like it's a strong card in that it puts pressure and it can retire something, which is pretty awesome.
Yep. When you give it a boost,
you give your Vanguard 4K.
You give your Vanguard 4K, and not like a boost like a booster, but like when you give it one of the 4Ks from like your starter,
it triggers the effect.
Yeah. So it's great. You see it in all Gallop builds
and some metal.
Yeah, actually, and very relevant metal boards.
And then we have Grand Revolver, which it's the stride for Grand Gallop. So you kind of Grand Volver.
Grand Volver, the grade 2 with resist.
Oh no, I thought. Am I getting confused?
Yeah, you are.
Wait, what's the name of the grade 4? For Gallop.
X-Gallop?
Yeah, X-Gallop. Okay,
Yeah.
That was the stride. The stride is obviously very relevant to that. That's absolutely.
Yeah, but
Grand
Grand Volver is actually the countercharge for the deck.
Yeah,
so it has counterblast 1. You give one of your units 4K. It gets 4K, and then if Vanguard's at a certain number, He gets an on-hit pressure
Unflip,
for
yeah.
unflipping 2.
My bad. Yeah. I
And the
remember.
resist is always fun because now if it's in the front row, it can't fall prey to retiring units.
And in terms of where it falls into the meta, this deck.
The weakness.
Oh, the weakness.
Weakness. Sorry.
In terms of where it falls in the meta, we kind of agreed that it doesn't hold up as well as D-Robos, which is, spoiler alert, that's probably the most competitive People's deck. And also, I have problems with decks that just fall to inherent mechanics in the game. And the fact that a perfect guard can say no to the deck is kind of an issue with me.
With pretty much every single stride.
Yeah, like it's just that I have a problem with decks that just say no to get shut down by a perfect guard. That's just always been me. That's always been how I play and like how I think. I don't like when decks have to deal with that. It's why I sometimes don't like decks that gain crit on a stride unless it has like a beneficial ability to that as well. Anyway, so no, we kind of agreed it can be meta. It has potential, but it doesn't hold up as well as the Eurobos. Just doesn't. Next build, Metalborgs.
Metalborgs.
The grade 3 is very obvious, Sin Buster, and you can play the break ride with it as well if you want to have like a cheeky try and steal the game sort of scenario, but you just don't. The consistency of always having Sin Buster on Vanguard is pretty valuable.
Or Baron Greater.
Yeah, or Baron Greater.
So, okay.
Well, that's the thing. Baron Greater I just view as like another Sin Buster in the deck.
He is Sin Buster.
Yeah, he's just another Sin Buster in my opinion. I personally like decks that have the consistency of always having a certain grade 3 on Vanguard, which I know goes against like what I'm playing right now, but it's just hard. Now, the type of deck, we agreed it was tempo, but you had an interesting perspective on another element.
I do agree with tempo, but I also saw it a little bit as control. When you actually just like stop and think about Metalborgs and how they play with the Stride Heavy Duke, allows you, just ends up. Hold up, train. There it is.
Hype train. I don't know why else you can use that train.
It is. So, what was that? So Heavy Duke in itself denies your opponent the ability to use grade 1s in order to guard, which is a form of control. But the way that the deck is also, the way that some supports or builds can use, there's a new stand trigger that allows you to retire Sentinels that, putting in a soul, they reveal a grade 3. Or a build that I've been messing with, which is one of the Enigma burst cards, that allows you to retire rear guards by throwing in a card with burst. So,
Guardians.
One of the Guardians, excuse me, yeah. So, I do think that by controlling your opponent, by telling them that they can't guard with grade 1s, and then if you have the grand subs on the rear guard, so when you hit, you're going to start retiring their things, and
it also makes your opponent kind of get tripped up, because I struggle playing against D-Police in some ways, because it kind of puts you in a different mindset about how you have to guard and how you have to consider all your plays against them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the direction that card puts you in.
Because again, when you're playing against Metalborgs, at that point you know that your Sentinels are pretty much useless in that fight. You might as well throw them down for Stride Enablers, you might as well throw them down to boost. It's not like, D-Robos.
Well, it depends. It does depend, because like if they don't Heavy Duke, then it's relevant.
Right, if you don't have
then the perfect guards are relevent, because once again you typically go into like Cosmic Hero strides at that point.
Right, but most
of the time you're gonna be Heavy Duke.
Right, yeah. Because you're denying your opponent and you're getting cards in your hand.
And with Laurel.
And Laurel, so it's.
Oh wait, we're getting like super off.
Oh well, no, we're just making it relevant.
Yeah. So in terms of strengths, what he was talking about, it has guard restrict that is consistent, and that's where it boils down to this whole control thing. Consistent guard restrict makes your opponent think differently and play differently, which is kind of an interesting thing in this game, because it's very rare that clans kind of have that, except for your Chronic, which has everything. Weakness, it's very linear play style, so like it's very predictable how you're going to play it out.
Yeah.
And there are like a couple different variants. Like I said, the Break Ride Legion build of this is like super YOLO-y, and like you're really trying to just go try hard and steal the game. And with G-Guards, it's very hard now.
And it can be somewhat inconsistent. And the reason why I say that is...
You're saying for the YOLO-y build?
No, just for in general. So they just recently got a stride that is absolutely terrible, and you can't argue against it. It is
It's
absolutely
not good.
terrible. You miss the first ability if you're not in Legion, but more importantly, if you're one of those people that ended up on Baron Greater, their new stride is actually worthless to you.
Yeah, you can't even use the effect.
Yeah, you get no benefit out of that. So,
Well, that's also well, yeah.
yeah, it happens. It happens. You know, it's one of those things. It's very linear, and you also have to figure out when that you're going to use. Not Laurel. When you actually want a Legion and try to kill them off that way, because.
And when you throw down Laurel with that deck, because one of the issues with it is it can lose to control, because if you throw down your Laurel too early and you're not thinking, it can just get picked off.
Yeah.
And like that's a huge problem with Deep Police in general, is that like against control, if you just throw down your Laurel for the sake of throwing it down without a purpose, then you might end up losing because you're not being careful. So that's like really the only foresight thing you have to have with this deck.
Very Laurel dependent.
Yeah, Laurel dependent, Heavy Zook, another key card. Grand Sub can be played in this as well. It's very good.
Yeah, Grand Sub is very perfect for the deck because honestly, if you're playing the deck, you're going down the middle. So why not just put your 5Ks, get your 4Ks, so when you hit,
well,
you
then
retire,
you have to
throw
have
a
cards
card.
that trigger it, but you can just get a trigger, throw it on. But anyway, we agreed that it can be a part of the meta. It has potential, but like that new stride is just butt cheeks.
And then you're pretty much playing the same cards.
Yeah.
Unless you want to try to do something different, which I did. I built a different deck.
But this kind of leads us to like our final kind of sub-clan, and like the most discussed one right now because of new support and just generally speaking how ridiculous it's become. D-Robos, and this is very near and dear to Sky, but the main card for the deck is Die Kaiser, which you play the Breaker at Legion build because that ability to just kill off somebody's ridiculous. And it's also just a straight up tempo deck. And I know it seems like I'm rushing, but I really want to get to like the main discussion part of this. The strengths. So it is incredibly durable in that like the stride options are ridiculous. Like you have so many good stride options now that all serve just very different purposes. And on top of that, with the new starter, you're always going to stride first. That ability to stride first, as we've always talked about, is just so important. And when you use the starter skill, you go into Die Earth and get 2 cards out and just replace them. And then you throw down Laurel and your opponent's a grade 2. Odds are they're going to let it hit, and then you're just back to where you were with a better hand.
The deck, D-Robos are just so versatile right now, which is something that I'm very grateful for. Because you have 2, in the beginning you had like one path that you went down and you were just striding just to like thin your deck out until you can break right Legion and kill them because you're throwing your cards back into the deck with Dijet and you just keep cycling back your grade 3s, which, by the way, because of the way that you built the deck, and it's pretty much consistent with everyone that you're playing 10 grade 3s, you actually don't need stride enablers. So now you don't have to mess up the consistency of the deck other than having like a Laurel in the deck. You know, so it's just a very versatile deck where, you know, you can go down the I'm gonna kill them with Break Red Legion, or you can continue playing the stride game and kill them that way. Because
the strides are ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're just overall very ridiculous. Dimax is a phenomenal card.
Leon,
yeah.
Terrible art, but
it's very good.
It's very good because it helps you in that middle game.
Alright, so we agreed that this is kind of like an interesting thing. So it like falls to Rush, but this is kind of an interesting thing I thought of. Was both a weakness and a strength. It can be a coin flip sometimes. Granted, you can kind of sway the coin flip more in your favor, and if you like that play style of, okay, am I going to hit the grade 3 or not, let's see what happens, that's cool. But it's just something to be aware of. The deck now is, with a lot of the support that has just been accruing over the past year or so, is able to sway it more in its favor, that odds are you're going to check a grade 3 when they start throwing cards down.
Which, you know, most people say the longer the game goes, the better. I say, depending on how you're playing it, the longer the game goes, the worse it can get for you, depending on where you're at in the game. Because again, the more cards you're drawing, and the more you're cycling back those grade 3s, less of those triggers, grade 1s, grade 2s are going to be in the deck, and you're going to be getting more grade 3s, which means less guard for you. So at some point, you have to realize this is where this person needs to die, or this is where I need to break right. Legion
It's all about
together.
timing, and you have to just know like your stride cycle and how to counteract it. In terms of the key cards, we've mentioned a couple, but Die Bazooka counting as a grade 3, that's pretty awesome.
And giving you the potential counter charge.
Die
You took out the unflipping Vanguards.
You can now. Die Jet is very important because first of all, if it hits, you draw a card, and second of all, you can recycle grade 3s. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new starter, which is ridiculous. I think that was one of the stupid, like, on top of all the support they got, I think it was one of the just not a smart decision on Bushiroad's part. I think that.
I hope that doesn't get turned into a meme.
Yeah. What? I think you agree.
I do agree. I think it was an awful
it was a bad
idea.
decision.
But thank you to those up there that were listening to us D-Rebel players. Legend deck.
It's ridiculous to me that they did it. Because now it eliminates the guesswork of if they're going to stride first. You can't chicken game them because they can just use the damn starter on you.
Yeah.
Like, it's
amazing.
It's amazing. And then that brings me to, like, the final point. It's 100% meta. It is so relevant right now. It's ridiculous.
It's so meta that I'm actually not playing it.
Yeah.
I'm not
he doesn't
playing.
like playing meta.
It's my favorite build.
I think we have to make mention of this because it just came out a couple days ago. The G Break 8 card.
Yeah,
which is insane.
So he hit me up, and I was kind of foaming at the mouth when I read that card because it is absolutely doable. I thought that Dimax was the finisher, and lo and behold, they printed Die King, and just like, here, Terrell, here's a card for you. And it is easily splashable in all decks. However, Metaborgs and Enigmans won't be able to play.
It really only works in D-Robos and maybe Cosmic Heroes.
Because, the reason why it won't be played in Metal Boys is because you have Heavy Duke. You have a specific playstyle with that. Enigmans can play it, but it gets kind of hard for them. But for Cosmic Heroes, you want to get that? Okay, X-Hacker, here you go.
Yeah,
it's very easy to get there. And Dimensional Robots, every single one of their personal strides flips over a copy of themselves.
So they're going to be getting to that really quickly. Anyway, so it's just incredibly meta. And basically, as a synopsis, if you really are looking to be competitive, you probably want to play D-Robos right now. I mean, it has so many good matchups and really loses to Rush, but at the same time, like, you're able to come back from the Rush too. Like, it's not that hard to just turn that bad situation into a good situation and start netting a bunch of cards in hand.
And honestly, your control matchups aren't bad.
No.
And in terms of D-Robos,
and just like a bunch of things help out with it.
Metaborgs, the same. We'll talk about this. And Metaborgs, the same. Like, you go against a Link Joker player, and you can just pretty much laugh in their face. Yeah. So, down the middle, D-Robos or Dimensional.
Well, I would say D-Robos are better against Link Joker than Metaborgs.
I don't want to say it's 50-50, but I definitely say it's 60-40.
For D-Robos instead of Metaborgs?
D-Robos instead of Metaborgs.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'm not an expert on this. I just kind of wanted to bring in Sky to give me some feedback on this. So
that's what I'm here for.
Thank you guys for watching, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Woo!